Commander Lyra Jenkins had exactly 3 things left in the universe. Her standard-issue Terran Alliance uniform, slightly torn at the sleeve, a universal translator that kept translating "Hello as I feast on your offspring," and the growing suspicion that being stranded on Galactic Council Station Epsilon 9 was not in fact just a minor setback in her diplomatic career. For the 17th time, Lyra shouted at the purple, tentacled bureaucrat behind the glowing desk, "I am not here to conquer your station. I'm a diplomatic envoy whose shuttle experienced catastrophic engine failure." The bureaucrat, whose name tag read Gloop, or possibly Death to All Mammals. The translator was really struggling today, withdrew 3 of its 7 appendages in obvious terror. "The human speaks with forked breath appendage," Gloop whispered into an intercom. "Security to reception, please. Bring the level 7 containment field." Lyra slumped against the gelatinous wall, which promptly shuddered and moved 6 feet to the left. Perfect. Even the architecture was afraid of her. Meanwhile, 16 floors above in the council chamber, 12 representatives of the galaxy's most evolved species were having a complete meltdown. "A human? On our station?" screamed Counselor Vex Plib, his eye stalks pulsating with alarm. "Do you know what those creatures do for fun? They drink fermented plant poison. Voluntarily. They expose themselves to concentrated radiation just to change their skin color," added Counselor Zen, his scales rattling in distress. High Elder Thune, the wisest of the counselors at nearly 900 years old, raised one gnarled claw for silence. "The solution is clear. The human must be eliminated before it realizes our weaknesses. Contact the apex predator. Only he can handle this threat." The council chamber filled with gasps. Nobody hired Kragthul unless they were truly desperate, or truly terrified. The name Kragthul reverberated through the darker corners of galactic civilization like a death knell, though rarely spoken above a whisper. Those familiar with the apex predator's reputation understood that merely invoking his name might draw unwanted attention. In the shadowy underworld of interstellar bounty hunters, assassins and mercenaries, Kragthul occupied a category entirely his own. Standing precisely 8 feet and 3 inches tall, his obsidian scales absorbed light rather than reflected it, creating an unsettling void-like silhouette when he moved. He belonged to the Vorn species, incredibly rare evolutionary apex predators from the high-gravity death world of Crucible, where atmospheric pressure alone would crush most sentient beings into organic paste. The average Vorn was already a terrifying sight in civilized space, but Kragthul was exceptional even among his fearsome kind. His 4 independently tracking amber eyes could perceive across 17 different visual spectrums. The retractable claws sheathed within his 6-fingered hands could shred military-grade armor like tissue paper. Most impressively, his neurological system featured a secondary processing network dedicated exclusively to hunting behaviors, a biological computer evolved specifically for tracking, analyzing and eliminating prey. The bounty hunter's private quarters aboard his ship, the Inevitable, reflected his ruthlessly pragmatic nature. Unlike other hunters who adorned their personal spaces with the trophies of conquest, Kragthul considered such displays childishly sentimental and strategically foolish. Why advertise your capabilities to potential enemies? The chamber was spartanly furnished with only essential items crafted from indestructible materials. The sole concession to personal history was a carefully maintained display case containing 7 small weapons, each from civilizations that no longer existed in the galactic record. Each weapon represented a contract that had altered the course of interstellar history, though Kragthul never discussed the details with anyone. He was methodically cleaning an electromagnetic pulse dagger, capable of short-circuiting even the most advanced cybernetic implants, when his ship's communication array pulsed with the distinctive encrypted frequency used exclusively by the Galactic Council for matters of extreme secrecy. Kragthul placed the dagger precisely on its cleaning cloth, each movement deliberate and economical, before acknowledging the transmission. The aged, quavering face of High Elder Thune materialized in the holographic projection field. Despite the Elder's attempts at projecting authority, Kragthul's sensory organs detected elevated stress hormones and irregular neural patterns indicative of extreme fear. "Apex Predator," the transmission began, Thune's voice wavering despite obvious attempts to steady it. "The Council requires your unique services for a matter of galactic security. We have a situation that exceeds standard containment protocols." Kragthul remained motionless, his stillness more intimidating than any threatening gesture. The Council never contacted him directly unless the situation was catastrophic. His last Council contract had involved neutralizing a rogue artificial intelligence that had gained control of a planet-destroying weapon. Thune hesitated, his eye stalks twitching nervously, "a human loose on Station Epsilon 9. Kragthul's 4 amber eyes narrowed simultaneously, an involuntary reaction. His species possessed a sophisticated biological threat assessment system, evolved over millions of years of apex predator status. The mere mention of humans triggered an unusual response, a complex mixture of primal caution and intellectual curiosity. Humans were relatively new arrivals to the galactic stage, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 70 standard years ago, but stories of their capabilities had spread through interstellar civilization with remarkable speed. "You understand the gravity of this request," continued Thune, the nervous flutter of his breathing membranes clearly visible even through the holographic transmission. "The creature must be eliminated before it can compromise station security, or stars forbid, reproduce. We've authorized triple your standard fee, with an additional hazard bonus upon confirmed termination." Cragthul's secondary breathing membranes fluttered slightly, the Vorn equivalent of amused laughter. "If humans were truly as dangerous as the rumors suggest, High Elder, triple my standard fee would be insultingly insufficient." His voice emerged as a resonant bass that visibly disturbed the transmission field with its vibrations. "However, I have never hunted this particular prey before. The challenge intrigues me." After terminating the communication, Cragthul accessed the Inevitable's comprehensive database, reviewing what little confirmed information existed about humans. Their physiological specifications appeared remarkably unimpressive: soft-skinned, bipedal mammals with no natural armor, relatively dull senses, and no integrated biological weapons beyond blunt teeth and fingernails. Yet curiously, their official galactic classification file contained more warning labels than species 3 times their theoretical threat level. The warnings painted a puzzling picture. Warning: humans can continue functioning with multiple non-critical injuries. Warning: humans deliberately consume substances toxic to most species as recreational activities. Warning: humans have been documented surviving in environments ranging from -50 to +50 degrees Celsius with minimal protective equipment. Warning: humans engage in voluntary activities that risk permanent physical damage for purposes of entertainment and sport. Warning: human pain threshold exceeds standard measurement parameters. Warning: humans can form pack bonds with non-human species, including traditional predators. Warning: human psychological responses become more focused and efficient when under extreme stress. Most interestingly, a final note had been added to their file, flagged with the highest security clearance: approach with extreme caution. Humans may appear non-threatening and physically vulnerable. This is suspected to be evolutionary deception of unprecedented sophistication. Cragthul stared at this final note for several moments. In his centuries of hunting the galaxy's most dangerous beings, he had encountered many species with deceptive appearances, but none where the entire official record suggested the deception was this comprehensive. Either humans were truly extraordinary predators disguised as prey, or the galactic community had developed an irrational fear based on limited data. Either possibility made this hunt uniquely worthwhile. He began packing his equipment with methodical precision. First, his primary hunting exoskeleton, with integrated stealth field generator, capable of bending light, sound, and even pheromonal signatures around his massive frame. Next, a carefully arranged selection of toxins from 3 different chemical families proven effective against carbon-based mammalian life. A specialized neural disruptor calibrated to affect primitive mammalian brain structures followed, along with a comprehensive sensor suite designed to track biological functions. Last, and most significantly, he retrieved his ancestral blade from its secure containment field, a curved weapon of molecular-edged obsidian that could slice through virtually all known materials with minimal resistance. The blade had been passed down through 17 generations of his bloodline, each wielder adding their own kills to its storied history. As the Inevitable navigated the final approach to Station Epsilon 9, Cragthul experienced an unfamiliar sensation rippling through his secondary nervous system: genuine anticipation. Every hunt for the past several decades had become predictable, almost routine. He could typically calculate the exact sequence of events, down to which specific moment his prey would realize their inevitable doom. But humans remained an unknown variable. The diplomat's file identified her as Commander Lyra Jenkins, a mid-level representative of the Terran Alliance with standard military training. "Commander Jenkins," he practiced aloud, his quadruple vocal cords vibrating in harmony as his mouth formed around the unfamiliar syllables. The name felt strange on his forked tongue as he activated his hunting exoskeleton, each piece locking into place with satisfying precision. "Soon you will answer the question that intrigues me: are humans truly the apex predators they're rumored to be, or simply another overestimated species with an inflated reputation maintained by ignorance and fear?" The airlock between his ship and the station hissed open with a rush of recycled air. Cragthul stepped onto Epsilon 9, his enhanced sensory organs already filtering the overwhelming environmental data, thousands of overlapping scents, thermal signatures, air current patterns and sound waves. According to the briefing, the human had been confined to the station's lower administrative levels, though security feeds suggested she had been regularly circumventing containment protocols, through means the station's security chief couldn't explain. A human loose on a station of this size presented a unique tracking challenge. Their thermal signature would blend with countless other warm-blooded species. Their respiratory patterns would be masked by the station's air cycling systems, but every predator left distinctive traces, microparticles of dead skin cells, unique pheromonal markers, the subtle disturbance patterns in crowded environments. The human would not escape detection for long. As Cragthul merged into the bustling main concourse, various aliens unconsciously created distance around him, evolutionary survival instincts recognizing a superior predator, even through the veneer of civilization. He activated his neural implants hunt protocol, and the chaotic environment transformed into a carefully analyzed tactical display. Every movement, every scent, every thermal variation became data to be processed and evaluated. The hunt had begun, and for the first time in decades, Cragthul found himself facing an outcome that wasn't a foregone conclusion. Whether the human lived up to her species' mysterious reputation or not, this contract promised something he had almost forgotten existed, a genuine challenge. Cragthul moved through the crowded lower levels of Station Epsilon 9, like a shadow sliding between light sources. His massive frame should have drawn attention, but millennia of evolutionary perfection as an ambush predator allowed him to exploit the psychological blind spots of lesser species. Most station residents simply refused to process his presence, their primitive brains protecting them from acknowledging the apex predator in their midst. The station's environmental systems were a cacophony of data, recycled air carrying thousands of biological signatures, temperature variances from dozens of species-specific habitat zones, and the constant electromagnetic hum of technology. Lesser hunters would be overwhelmed, but Cragthul's sensory filtering was impeccable. He systematically eliminated non-human signatures until he isolated a unique pattern, slightly elevated body temperature, distinct respiratory rhythm, and trace elements of a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere optimization, human markers. The trail led him to the administrative sector, where the station's endless bureaucracy processed everything from docking permits to waste management protocols. According to his intel, Commander Jenkins had been attempting to secure passage off the station, a futile effort, as all departures were now secretly on lockdown by council order. 16 decks below the council chamber, Commander Lyra Jenkins was having what she professionally classified as a complete shit show of a day. After being denied departure clearance for the 7th time, she now stood before yet another bureaucratic obstacle, a towering insectoid creature with compound eyes and chitinous mandibles that clicked incessantly as it processed her request. "What do you mean my species designation requires a special handling form?" Lyra demanded, slamming her hand on the gelatinous counter that rippled in alarm. "I've already filled out Form 62B, Appendix H for non-standard respiratory requirements, Form 115D for potentially hazardous appendages, which is ridiculous, by the way, they're called fingers, and even that absurd xenobiological contamination waiver, suggesting I might spontaneously explode." The insectoid administrator, whose name badge approximated to Klixic, retreated several inches. "Apologies, potentially dangerous mammal, but council regulations are quite specific. All Class 17 unpredictable evolutionary anomalies must complete the Extinction Event Prevention Protocol documentation." Its mandibles quivered nervously. "It's just a simple 47-page questionnaire about your species' history of planetary domination." Lyra's face flushed with a combination of frustration and disbelief. "We haven't dominated any planets besides our own, and we nearly wrecked that one." From his concealed position behind a malfunctioning nutrient dispenser, Cragthul observed this exchange with unprecedented fascination. The human's physiological responses were extraordinary. Her epidermal layer changed color with emotional states. Her vocal patterns modulated with precise control. Most interestingly, despite being surrounded by creatures that could dismember her with minimal effort, she showed absolutely no fear response. Either humans lacked self-preservation instincts entirely, or Commander Jenkins possessed confidence in abilities not apparent to visual inspection. Perhaps, the insectoid suggested, edging further back, the quadrant supervisor could approve an exemption. "Their office is on level 42, section Gamma 7. You'll need clearance of course, but I know exactly where it is." Lyra interrupted, turning abruptly. And I don't need clearance. I need someone on this nightmare of a station to recognize basic interspecies diplomatic protocols before I contact the Terran Alliance, and turn this entire situation into an interstellar incident. Cragthul noted the administrator's reaction with interest. All 6 limbs trembled at the human's threat. Curious. The council had described this human as stranded and isolated, yet station personnel responded to her as though she commanded significant power. Another piece of the puzzle that didn't align with standard prey behavior. He followed as Jenkins navigated the labyrinthine corridors with surprising efficiency, bypassing 3 security checkpoints through what appeared to be a combination of technological manipulation and sheer audacity. At the first checkpoint, she simply reprogrammed the scanner to register her as maintenance personnel. At the second, she engaged the guard in conversation about their spawn offspring's educational development, until they simply waved her through. At the third, most impressively, she walked with such purpose and authority that the security system didn't even activate. This wasn't the behavior of prey being hunted. This was a predator moving through territory it considered already conquered. The opportunity for first contact presented itself in an empty corridor in Section Delta. Cragthul disengaged his stealth field, positioning himself at the intersection ahead of Jenkins' path. The human's first reaction would provide valuable tactical data on her species' threat assessment capabilities. Lyra rounded the corner, and came face to chest with 8 feet of obsidian-scaled alien predator. She stopped, looked up way up and sighed deeply. "Let me guess," she said, crossing her arms. "Another form I need to fill out. Form 12X for encountered terrifying alien in hallway. Or are you the station's welcoming committee finally getting around to me?" Cragthul blinked all 4 eyes in sequence, a gesture of profound confusion in Vorn body language. This was not the reaction of prey confronting a predator. There was no fear response, no flight initiation, no defensive posturing. Instead, the human appeared, annoyed. "You are Commander Lyra Jenkins of the Terran Diplomatic Corps," he stated, his voice resonating through the corridor like distant thunder. "Oh good. Someone on this station actually knows who I am," Lyra replied, shifting her weight to one hip. "And you are?" "I am Cragthul," he responded, monitoring her biosignatures for recognition of his name. Lyra's expression remained unchanged. "Great. Nice to meet you, Cragthul. Now if you'll excuse me, I have an appointment with someone called a Quadrant Supervisor, who hopefully possesses more than 2 functioning brain cells, unlike every other administrator I've encountered today." She attempted to step around his massive frame. Cragthul shifted slightly to block her path, a movement that would typically freeze most prey species in terror. Instead, the human simply stopped and looked up at him with an expression he couldn't immediately classify in mammalian terms. "You do not appear concerned by my presence," Cragthul observed, genuinely puzzled. Lyra laughed, an abrupt sharp sound. "Listen, I've spent the last 3 days being shuttled between bureaucrats with tentacles, slime trails, and in one memorable case, 17 anuses. I've filled out so many forms my hand is cramping. I've been denied food compatible with my digestive system, because apparently humans are classified as potentially explosive when fed. The environmental systems in my assigned quarters keep flooding the room with methane, because someone tagged me as an ammonia breather. At this point, you could tell me you're here to vaporize the station, and I'd ask if I could watch." Cragthul's hunting protocols faltered. In 2 centuries of tracking prey across the galaxy, he had never encountered this reaction. The human should be terrified. She should be fleeing or begging for mercy. Instead, she was complaining to him. "I have been sent to kill you," he stated directly, deciding that clarity might provoke a more predictable response. Lyra stared at him for 3 full seconds, then erupted into laughter so intense she had to lean against the wall for support. "Of course you have," she wheezed between fits of laughter. "That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Do you need me to fill out a consent form for my own assassination? Form 900Z, agreement to be murdered by large scary alien. Does it need to be notarized?" For the first time in his hunting career, Cragthul found himself completely unprepared for the situation. The human was treating an explicit death threat as humorous. None of his training or experience provided protocol for this scenario. Most disturbingly, he was beginning to suspect the Council's warnings about humans might have been understated rather than exaggerated. "You do not believe me?" he questioned, flexing his claws subtly. Lyra wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. "Oh, I believe you. It's just the logical conclusion to this entire absurd experience." She straightened up and looked him directly in his lower set of eyes. So what's the plan? Disintegration, ritual combat. Please tell me it's not paperwork-related death. I refuse to be bureaucrated to death. Cragthul's secondary nervous system began sending warning signals throughout his body. Something was fundamentally wrong with this scenario. Either this human was genuinely unafraid of death, suggesting psychological abnormalities even for her species, or she possessed defensive capabilities that made his threat meaningless. Neither option aligned with his understanding of prey behavior. You should be afraid, he stated, more to reassure himself than to intimidate her. Lyra's expression softened into something almost like pity. Fear requires energy, I simply don't have left. Look, if you're going to kill me, could we at least do it after I've spoken to this quadrant supervisor? I've put too much effort into getting this far to give up now. In that moment, Cragthul made a decision unprecedented in his hunting career. He needed more information before proceeding. I will observe you first, he declared, activating his stealth field once more and seemingly vanishing from the corridor. Lyra blinked at the space where the massive alien had been, then shrugged. Well, that happened, she muttered to herself, continuing toward the quadrant supervisor's office with the same determined stride. From his invisible vantage point, Cragthul followed, his understanding of this hunt, and perhaps his understanding of the Galactic Order itself, beginning to unravel with each confident step the human took. Cragthul shadowed Commander Jenkins through the station's upper levels, his stealth field rendering him invisible to all but the most advanced detection systems. What he witnessed defied all logical understanding of prey species behavior. At the quadrant supervisor's office, Lyra bypassed a security lock that supposedly required 17-digit clearance codes by simply removing a panel and cross-wiring 2 circuits. Basic electronics, she muttered to herself. Hasn't changed in 400 years. Inside, when confronted by the 7-armed supervisor, she displayed no deference. Instead, she produced a small device and pressed it against the alien's gelatinous communication membrane. This is a recording of your staff violating 17 separate articles of the Galactic Charter regarding treatment of diplomatic personnel. Now, about that shuttle, the supervisor immediately authorized her departure request. Later, in the station's central dining hub, Cragthul watched in horror as Lyra consumed substances labeled highly toxic to carbon-based life. When a concerned Arcturian waiter tried to intervene, she smiled. It's fine, this is mild compared to what we drink for breakfast. She proceeded to consume something called hot sauce that, according to station warnings, could dissolve certain species' exoskeletons. In the maintenance sector, she lifted a replacement hull plate that, according to Cragthul's calculations, weighed approximately 1.7 times her body mass. Seeing a struggling maintenance drone, she casually held the plate in place while the drone secured it, showing no signs of strain. Most disturbing was her interaction with the station's apex predator pet, a Regelian shadow stalker being walked by a nervous owner. The creature, known for its aggression toward unfamiliar species, approached Lyra with hunting posture. Instead of showing fear, she knelt down and extended her hand. Who's a handsome interdimensional nightmare? You are. The shadow stalker, to its owner's visible shock, rolled onto its back, exposing 17 vulnerable vitals points for what Lyra called belly rubs. With each observation, Cragthul's certainty crumbled. The Galactic Council hadn't exaggerated human capabilities. They'd underestimated them. This wasn't a vulnerable diplomat. This was an entity that consumed poison for pleasure, manipulated predators into submission, casually violated supposedly unbreakable security systems, and exhibited strength far beyond her species' apparent physical limitations. Most concerning, she accomplished all this while appearing to be in a state of mild annoyance, rather than exerting any real effort. Cragthul realized with growing certainty that he wasn't hunting Commander Jenkins. She was allowing him to follow her. Station security alerts blared through the corridors as Cragthul tracked Commander Jenkins to a rarely used observation deck. The security breach wasn't subtle. Apparently she had borrowed the quadrant supervisor's personal access codes and was now systematically downloading station schematics, departure schedules, and communication logs. The circular chamber offered panoramic views of the swirling nebula outside, casting everything in ethereal blue light. Commander Jenkins stood silhouetted against the stars, her back to the entrance, seemingly unconcerned about potential pursuers. Perhaps most telling, she had chosen a location with only one exit, the tactical equivalent of painting a target on herself. Cragthul disengaged his stealth field, the electronic hum announcing his presence. His ancestral blade hung ready at his side, though he found himself inexplicably reluctant to draw it. I wondered when you'd stop lurking and join me properly, Lyra said without turning around. The view is spectacular from here. We have nebulae in Terran space, but nothing with quite this color palette. You knew I was following you, Crag the Fool stated. Not a question but a realization. Your stealth tech is impressive, she acknowledged, finally turning to face him. But you breathe. 4-cycle respiratory pattern, distinctive and non-native to this station. Plus you occasionally block ambient light when you move past illumination sources. Subtle, but noticeable if you're paying attention. Crag the Fool's secondary nervous system sent cascading alarm signals throughout his body. No prey species should be capable of detecting a Vorn hunter's presence. It violated every natural law he understood. The Council fears you, he said, taking a step forward. They believe humans represent an existential threat to galactic stability. Lyra laughed, that same disconcerting sound he'd heard earlier. The Council fears everything they don't understand, and they understand very little. She gestured toward the stars. Do you know what the most abundant element in the universe is, Crag the Fool? The question caught him off guard. Hydrogen, he answered automatically. Precisely. And do you know what humans are mostly made of? Water, hydrogen and oxygen. We're literally constructed from the most fundamental building blocks of reality. She took a step toward him. We evolved on a death world that tried to kill us every single day. Our planet has acid rain, atmospheric electrical discharges, tectonic instability, cyclonic weather systems, and predators that would give your species nightmares. Another step closer. We survived all of it. Not because we're the strongest or fastest or have the sharpest claws. We survived because we're the most adaptable species in known space. We see patterns. We solve problems. We endure. Crag found himself instinctively backing away from the advancing human, a behavior so contrary to his nature that he didn't immediately recognize what he was doing. The Council didn't tell you the most important thing about humans, did they? Lyra asked, her voice softer now. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We don't want to eliminate other species. We just want to explore, to learn, to connect. All I've been trying to do for 3 days is get someone to help me contact my people so they can send a transport. She was close enough now that Crag the Fool could detect her individual scent markers, a complex blend of synthetic materials, biological compounds, and something unique he couldn't identify. Something that triggered an ancient recognition pattern in his predator brain. I've watched you, he admitted. You consume toxins, you override security systems. You bend other creatures to your will through incomprehensible means. The station's most dangerous predator submitted to you voluntarily. Lyra's expression shifted to confusion before understanding dawned. Wait, you mean the hot sauce? That's just capsaicin, a plant defense mechanism. And that dangerous predator was just someone's pet. It's called petting, not mind control. But Crag was beyond rational discussion. All his evolutionary instincts, the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of apex predator development, were screaming a single message. Before him stood a creature more dangerous than any he had ever encountered. With deliberate ceremonial slowness, he unsheathed his ancestral blade, its molecular edge gleaming in the nebula light. Then, to Lyra's complete astonishment, he placed it on the deck between them. What are you doing? She asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Crag the Fool lowered himself to his knees, all 4 eyes fixed on her face. The posture was one no Vorn had adopted in recorded history, complete submission. I yield to the superior predator, he stated formally. The Council was right to fear your kind, but wrong about the nature of the threat. You do not need physical weapons when reality itself bends to your will. Lyra stared at him, mouth slightly open. You think I'm what exactly? Your species' appearance is the most perfect evolutionary deception in galactic history. Crag the Fool explained, a new reverence in his voice. You present as soft, vulnerable prey animals, yet you dominate environments designed to kill you. You ingest substances that would devastate other life forms. You manipulate technology, minds, and even physics itself through means I cannot comprehend. He lowered his head further, the ultimate gesture of submission in Vorn culture. The Council ordered me to eliminate you. I cannot comply. To do so would violate the most fundamental law of predator species. One does not challenge a superior hunter in their territory. Lyra looked from the kneeling hunter to the blade on the floor, and back again. She took a deep breath, pinched the bridge of her nose, and muttered something that sounded suspiciously like not getting paid enough for this shit. Okay, she said finally. Let me get this straight. You were sent to kill me because the Council thinks humans are dangerous apex predators, disguised as helpless mammals. Yes. And now you're refusing to kill me, because you've decided we actually are dangerous apex predators disguised as helpless mammals. Yes. Lyra closed her eyes briefly. The galaxy is so much weirder than our first contact specialist prepared us for. The council chamber buzzed with panic as warning klaxons echoed through Station Epsilon 9. Security feeds displayed Commander Lyra Jenkins striding confidently toward their location, accompanied by, impossibly, Craig Thull, the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter. More disturbing still, the Vorn Predator appeared to be walking 2 steps behind her in what security experts identified as escort formation, traditionally used when guarding high-value assets. "Seal the chamber," shrieked Counselor Vex Pleb, eye stalks pulsating frantically. "Deploy the Omega-level containment fields. Release the nerve toxins." High Elder Thune raised a trembling claw. "Our defensive measures are designed to contain conventional threats. If the apex predator has allied with the human," he left the implications hanging in the air like a death sentence. The massive reinforced doors to the council chamber slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing Commander Jenkins and her intimidating companion. The assembled counselors recoiled, some activating personal shield generators, others attempting to merge with the furniture through evolutionary defense mechanisms. "Good afternoon, distinguished representatives," Lyra announced cheerfully, as though addressing a garden party rather than a room full of terrified galactic leaders. "I believe we've had a slight misunderstanding that I'd like to clear up. Containment breach, human infiltration of secured area," screeched the emergency systems. "Oh, turn that off." Lyra sighed, gesturing to Craig Thull. The Vorn hunter delicately inserted one massive claw into a nearby control panel, and the alarms fell silent. High Elder Thune gathered what remained of his dignity. "Commander Jenkins, you have violated 17 security protocols by entering this chamber, and you appear to have compromised our enforcement agent." "Compromised?" Lyra raised an eyebrow. "I prefer had a productive cross-cultural exchange resulting in mutual understanding. Isn't that right, Craig Thull?" The massive hunter inclined his head slightly. "The human speaks truth. I have witnessed capabilities beyond council comprehension." Counselor Zen's scales rattled in distress. "What have you done to him? Some form of mind control, pheromone manipulation, quantum consciousness entanglement?" "We talked," Lyra replied flatly. "You know that thing where 2 sentient beings exchange information using words? It's all the rage in diplomatic circles." "Impossible," declared a gelatinous counselor from the back row. "Our research indicates humans use verbal communication primarily for deception and mating rituals." Lyra pinched the bridge of her nose, a gesture she'd been employing with increasing frequency since arriving on the station. "Okay, let's clear a few things up. First, humans are not planning to conquer the galaxy, enslave your species, or harvest your biological materials for mysterious purposes. That's exactly what a species planning galactic domination would say," hissed Vex Pleb. "Second," Lyra continued, ignoring the interruption, "I've been stranded on your station for 3 days trying to contact my government for extraction. Instead of assistance, I've received bureaucratic obstruction, nutritional deprivation, and apparently, an assassination attempt." She gestured toward a wall-mounted screen, which suddenly flickered to life displaying an official-looking document. "This is Article 47 of the Galactic Charter, which your council signed exactly 37 years ago. It specifically prohibits, and I quote, the targeted elimination of diplomatic personnel during interspecies communication breakdowns." The counselors exchanged nervous glances. The human had accessed their secure information systems with apparent ease. "The Terran Alliance is aware of my situation," Lyra continued, the lie rolling off her tongue with practiced diplomatic skill. "A retrieval vessel is already en route. However, I'm authorized to offer a gesture of goodwill to prevent this unfortunate misunderstanding from escalating into a diplomatic incident." High Elder Thune leaned forward cautiously. "What sort of gesture?" Lyra smiled, a disarmingly genuine expression that nonetheless sent several counselors ducking behind their chairs. "Knowledge exchange. There are aspects of human biology and culture that clearly fascinate your council. We're prepared to provide accurate information to replace your current, wildly imaginative database entries." "And in exchange?" Thune asked suspiciously. "You stop trying to kill, contain or experiment on human representatives. Basic diplomatic courtesy, really." The council members huddled together, a chaotic symphony of whispers, clicks, hisses, and telepathic exchanges filling the chamber. Finally, Thune emerged from the group. "The council accepts your proposal, Commander Jenkins. We will establish proper diplomatic protocols for human interactions moving forward." "Excellent." Lyra clapped her hands together. "Now about that transport." 3 hours later, Commander Lyra Jenkins stood in the docking bay beside a sleek Terran shuttle that had arrived with suspicious promptness following the Council's communication. Craig Thull loomed nearby, having appointed himself her unofficial security detail for reasons she still didn't fully understand. "So," she said, turning to the massive hunter, I guess this is goodbye. Thank you for not, assassinating me. The experience has been educational, Cragthul responded, his bass voice resonating through the cavernous bay. I have submitted my findings to the Hunters Guild. Your species will be classified under a new designation, protected evolutionary anomaly. Approach with extreme caution. Lyra laughed. I'm not sure that's an improvement over dangerous pest, but I'll take it. There is one question that remains unanswered. Cragthul said, all four eyes fixed on her face. During my observations, I witnessed you perform feats that defy explanation. You manipulated complex security systems, neutralized biological threats, consumed toxic substances, and displayed strength beyond your physical capacity. As I explained, those were all just. Yet, Cragthul continued, the Council's records indicate that humans are physiologically unremarkable. This contradiction suggests one of two possibilities. Either the Council's information is woefully inadequate, or, Lyra prompted when he paused. Or, you are not a typical representative of your species. Lyra's expression remained perfectly neutral, a skill honed through years of high-stakes diplomatic negotiations. What an interesting theory. The shuttle's boarding ramp extended with a pneumatic hiss. Lyra offered her hand in the human gesture of farewell. After a moment's hesitation, Cragthul enveloped it in his massive clawed appendage with surprising gentleness. Until we meet again, Commander Jenkins, he rumbled. Let's hope under better circumstances, she replied with a smile, ascending the ramp. As the shuttle lifted off, Cragthul remained in the docking bay, watching until it disappeared from view. He activated his secured communication implant, encoding a message on a frequency known only to the highest echelons of the Hunters Guild. Assessment of human threat, confirmed. Council estimates conservative, recommendation, immediate implementation of non-interference protocols. Note, subject displayed capabilities consistent with elite operative training, not standard diplomatic corps. Possible intelligence agent. Inside the departing shuttle, Commander Jenkins settled into her seat as the pilot engaged the FTL drive. Mission successful, Commander, asked the pilot. A knowing smile in her voice. Lyra pulled a small data crystal from her pocket downloaded directly from the Council's classified archives during her visit to the observation deck. Beyond expectations, Lieutenant. The Galactic Council just catalogued humanity as the most dangerous predatory species in known space, to be avoided at all costs. And that's good. Lyra grinned, tucking the crystal securely into a hidden compartment in her uniform. Terran intelligence has been trying to establish a deep cover operation in Council space for years. Now they'll be so busy avoiding us, they'll never notice when we actually start showing up. She gazed out at the stars streaking past, a satisfied smile playing at her lips. Sometimes the most effective predator is the one everyone's too afraid to look for.